Don't accept.
Hey everyone, this is Ryan Corcoran with Broadcast Buddy TV, the all-around go-to channel for all things broadcast television. And on this channel, it is our goal to equip you with the tips, tricks, and know-hows to help make you a better broadcaster. So if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and hit that bell icon so you never miss an upload. With that being said, let's get started. So this video is going to be more of a in-betweener of sorts. You see, I've been just swamped with other projects right now, and it's been taking some time away from the channel. I am working on other scripts right now for future video releases though, and I have a ton of ideas already in the pipeline. With that in mind, I wanted to do a real quick video to scratch the itch while I continue to work on my other videos. Now, as the title of this video suggests, I wanted to share a little bit about my background in the industry and how I got to this point of making YouTube videos. The channel is a little over a year old now, and I thought it might be a good time to do just that. Starting with the question that I get most often is, where did you go to school? To that, it really is quite a simple answer, and that is nowhere. I actually don't have a formal college education. The root of my education actually comes from a combination of self-imposed internships, hand-me-down knowledge, and on-the-job training. But to understand how that all works, we'll have to go back to the beginning. In late 2006, I was just a sophomore in high school. I remember being out to dinner with my dad at a local restaurant in our town, and on the TV they had the community channel running, which was Comcast Channel 99. It was run by the school district, and all they were using it for was a text generator for announcements. My dad, who's a longtime radio frequency engineer and technician, said, "Wouldn't it be cool if they used this for more stuff? They could air the school's football games." So we started talking about that, and he told me how he used to dabble in television broadcasting when he was my age and going to vo-tech school. So we took that idea and we ran with it. By the summer of 2007, we had scraped enough gear together to start building a small truck. And when I say small, it was small. It was built out of a small box truck that my mom originally had for her business that she wasn't really using anymore. So where did the gear come from? Well, it was based on really good timing. You see, my dad had reached out to the owner of the local PBS station because they were in the midst of moving to a brand new building with brand new digital gear. And he inquired about what they were going to do with all the old analog stuff. The owner had said that all of the gear was going to be sold on a lot to a single buyer, so we didn't really pursue it after that. About a month later though, the owner called up and explained that the sale had fallen through and they needed to get rid of all this gear ASAP. He asked if we still wanted it. We said we'd be over with the trailer within an hour. So we got all of this standard definition gear, including 3 large Hitachi studio cameras, teleprompters, CRT monitors, and the rest of the gear we needed, like a switcher, we found on eBay. So in the fall of 2007 came my senior year of high school and what started my own self-imposed senior career internship. Now, my parents had some negotiating to do with the school to make this all happen. My mother had bought me a television production college book. This one actually. 9th edition Zettl. Highly would recommend. I don't know what edition they're on these days, but at this point, I was super dedicated to the project, so she didn't mind fighting on my behalf. So that I basically had 2 classes, English and government, and after that, the rest of the day was to be dedicated to learning and producing content for the cable channel, which of course included airing the football games live on Friday nights. I called the internship Studio 99. Since it was all for Channel 99. Now, believe it or not, through all of this, I was treating it more of a hobby than an avenue for a career. For some reason, it didn't even cross my mind. Maybe because I was having too much fun with it. It actually wasn't until the day of my high school graduation that it finally clicked, and here's why. In June of 2008, I was set to graduate high school. As fate would have it, at the very last minute, the venue that was set to host it had to cancel, which left the school scrambling for another venue. They did find one, but instead of elevated seating, it was one level. They wanted to get a local production company to come in and set up some cameras and project the ceremony to the screen so that everyone could see their children walk. However, the one company they could find, keep in mind this was all happening within a couple days beforehand, it wasn't in their budget. So they actually came to me and asked if this was something I was capable of doing. I said, yeah, let's do it. So I sat at the back of my own graduation, cap and gown, switching and directing a 3-camera show up until I had to stop, get up, walk across the stage myself, then go back to continue switching. And it was in that moment that made me realize that I wanted to do this professionally. That summer, I worked for my mother's company fixing radios in state police cars. By mid-August, I would get the opportunity that would start it all. My father, who was doing some tower work with the local Fox affiliate, caught wind from their engineer that they were expanding their morning show from 2 to 4 hours and they were hiring some crew. He expressed that I had an interest in the industry and the engineer encouraged me to apply. So I applied. Went in for an interview and was hired as part-time studio crew with the responsibilities of camera op, audio mixing, teleprompting, and floor directing. 2 months later, I was hired as part-time at the local PBS station doing the same thing. Now, as soon as I had my foot in the door, I became a human sponge. I wanted to learn everything. When I wasn't working, I was hanging out with the other staff, trying to soak in everything I could, whether it was hanging out with the editors, learning how to linear tape edit, or riding with the engineers up to the transmitter site. I loved every minute of it. It only took about 8 months, and a position opened up at the station for the weekend director. And because of my prior experience in calling and punching for my internship, I was a prime candidate for the job, and it was offered to me. And so, in April of 2009, when I was still only 18 years old, I learned to direct and TD the news on my first multi-ME switcher, which was a Grass Valley 3000. Afterwards, I also started to TD and direct some of the shows at the PBS station too. All in all, I spent about 2 years in this position whilst also dabbling in some freelancing here and there on some local trucks. Now keep in mind throughout all of this, my father and I continued to be active with my alumni high school. We still took the box truck over and aired the football games. It was around June of 2009 that my mother actually said she needed her box truck back. So my dad and I found a used 28-foot trailer which would become the second version of the truck. We added a floor, walls, racks, and gear to this thing, and now understand that this all kind of became my dad's hobby, so he didn't mind spending some money on it here and there. Plus, it was a great father-son bonding time. So after that was built, that became the unit we used for the football games at the high school. So in the later part of 2010, the South Central Pennsylvania news market was in the midst of a race to be the first to go to air with high definition quality. The station that I was at was no exception. Their tactic was not only to go HD, but also to go a hybrid form of automation. This is where they decided to implement Ross Video's Overdrive. So they bought the gear and a trainer from Ontario came down and taught the system. I was super excited, more stuff to learn. I quickly took to the new technology to the point where I became almost the lead on building the switcher effects and templates. The trainer said he was impressed and mentioned that there was this new product they had called Expression and that they were looking for a freelance trainer. He told me to print him out a resume and he would make sure it got to the right people. I was pretty excited for that, but wasn't expecting too much to come of it. Oh, little did I know. Anyways, the following year on January 15th, 2011, the station was successful at being the first in the market to do a full HD newscast, and I was given the honor of directing it. At this point, I felt pretty accomplished. I continued to be an overdrive director at the station for a couple months before a new opportunity would arise. I was asked by a former colleague if I wanted to do some work for the Midland Sports Network, aka Masson. Baseball season was starting soon and they needed some experienced TV people to fill their crews for the pre- and post-game shows for the Orioles and Nationals. It was 6 months of guaranteed work and pay and it seemed pretty good. So with that offer, I decided to part ways with part-time employment life and dive headfirst into the world of full-time freelancing. So in March 2011, I officially started full-time freelancing, starting with Masson, and it was good solid work. I was definitely a jack of all trades at this point going in, so I filled whatever role they needed on a day-to-day basis, whether that was editing camera, technical directing, or really anything else. So after doing that for a few months, I would get a really interesting phone call. In July of 2011, I had gotten a phone call from Ross Video asking me if I would be interested in coming up to Canada for an interview for a role as a freelance overdrive or switcher trainer. So this was a full 6 months after I had given another trainer my resume, so I had pretty much forgotten about it. I think it might go without saying, but I gave them an enthusiastic yes. After flying up and meeting the team, I signed my first contract with them as a freelance trainer and demo artist. Surprisingly though, I wouldn't actually get any work from them for the rest of that year. In January of 2012, after baseball season was well over, I finally got my first assignment from Ross. It was a vision switcher training in Oklahoma City at an energy company of all places. But afterwards, I was hooked. I was 21, single, and now traveling to teach production switchers. Also, then shortly thereafter, the second season of baseball started. However, at this point, the Ross work started to come in more frequency, and I couldn't dedicate the time to Masson that they wanted. So I pulled back from them a bit and went headfirst into the Ross stuff. Same deal though. Whenever I could, I learned as much as I could and quickly started to become a trainer on most of their portfolio of products, including Expression, soft metal servers, and anything else they developed or bought over the years. Now, and I have to throw this in here as unrelated as it seems, but in November of 2012, my father was talking to one of the engineers at my former news station. We still kept good ties with them, and I even occasionally went in to help them build new overdrive templates. But anyways, they were looking to unload one of their used live trucks, one of the Ford E350 cargo vans with the mast and 3-rack wide configuration. My dad gave them an offer and they sold it to him real cheap. So he came home with an empty live truck. Trust me, I'll come back to the repercussions of this shortly. By January of 2013, I was 2 years deep into full-time freelancing, and based on my frequency and my income, my CPA advised me that it would be advantageous for me to switch things up a bit for tax reasons. So with that advice, I founded my company, ST99 Productions LLC, paying homage to the Studio 99 internship that started it all. From there on out, all my work would be done through this business as a contractor. Later that year, in the summer of 2013, I was getting my own intern from the high school. Dan, the engineer you've probably seen in some of my other videos, and who was actively taking part in the broadcast of the high school football games over the years, was finally turning into a senior himself. So, after talking to the school, and it wasn't nearly as difficult this time around, we convinced them to let me give him the opportunity that I was given for the same internship. So his first project before the school year even began would be to outfit the former live truck that my dad had bought into what would become the third version of our standard definition live truck. The trailer was a fun project and all, but we decided we wanted to try something a little bit more compact and manageable. Needless to say, this project would be the catalyst for something greater. I continued working and learning in the industry. I was traveling and teaching for Ross and meeting a ton of awesome people along the way. I continued to do freelance work in trucks and studios and stadiums and continued to build my network. By the summer of 2015, I had started to have the itch for something more, and I had this revelation. In my area, there were other OB trucks, of course, but nothing in quite the compact size or footprint that the little live truck was in. So I saw an opportunity. I brought the idea to my father and said, look, I really think I can make a go at this. I feel like I have amassed enough knowledge that I think I could turn this into a high definition truck and bring your company some more business. Now, his business was already growing pretty quickly, and any other time it might not have made sense, but all in all, he agreed, and he used capital from his business to make the investment in the HD gear I needed to put together a high definition production truck out of the old live unit. By the time December of that year rolled around, his business, Capillary Communications, officially entered the live production truck rental business with the debut of Hermes 1 and its EIC. Over the next year, we had a few jobs here and there, amongst my other work, and we had a few customers asking if we could even consider doing sports. So, since the interest was there, in August of 2016, I built the outboard trailer for the unit, which would house the additional 3 positions, 2 of which were for replay and graphics. By October of that year, my dad and I did our first professionally broadcasted high school football game together, bringing the whole story full circle. After a few years of doing this, in November of 2019, I built and launched the fly pack that you see featured in some videos, Icarus 1, as actually a response to a specific venue that was not very truck friendly. Finally, in December of 2019, we decided that it no longer made sense to fly these 2 units under my dad's business anymore. because the branding was a little confusing, a Motorola service shop that also did live rental units. So we decided to break those assets off and form a completely separate company called Mythology Mobile Production Solutions, inspired by the 2 units we already had named under Greek deities. In the beginning of the following year in 2020, we had the opportunity to take over some more territory with the high school and college football later that year, which is where I came up with the idea to build a video trailer that could house the fly pack. So why YouTube? Well, honestly, it just made sense. It was in the fall of 2018, just after that football season, that I stumbled upon another YouTube channel called Kurzgesagt. I'll put the link in the description below. It's this really cool educational YouTube channel that is all animated. They actually inspired me to make my own educational channel as another platform and avenue for others to learn about the industry. Bottom line is, I love what I do and I really love teaching about it. During 2019, I spent some time here and there getting the channel ready by making the branding, building the studio space, testing the formats, and so on. And on January 2nd of 2020, I put my very first video up. Then shortly thereafter, the pandemic hit, and I actually had a lot of time to work on videos. Now things are starting to pick up again, and all around I'm finding the balance of keeping up a good upload schedule and still balancing all my other responsibilities. But hey, as long as it is still fun and you guys are still getting something out of it, I will continue to make videos as long as I can. So that'll about do it for today's video. I know this was a little bit different, but I hope in some way it might be inspiring to those who might be watching this who are just trying to find their way in the industry. If you're one of those people, my biggest advice to you is to always put your best foot forward, no matter who you're working with. People will recognize your ambitions. And look, I know compared to a lot of folks out there, I'm still a baby to this world. If you've done the math, you'll have found I'm only 30 myself. Trust me, I'm not always the smartest guy in the room, and I will never pretend to be. All I can do is keep learning every day and do my part by spreading the knowledge to others willing to do the same. So with that being said, we'll catch you right here next time on Broadcast Buddy TV.